and welcome to the Organic MD podcast.
Hi, this is Dr. Damon Miller. I'm your Organic MD.
And this is Carlisle Koash. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Today we're going to be talking about food sensitivities. It's a big topic, and it's much misunderstood. But I got to tell you that there is nothing you can do for your health that's any easier or simpler, cheaper than changing the way you eat and making those changes based upon kind of a personalized knowledge of what foods are good for you and which foods are not so good for you. And it sounds easy. The good news is that you carry around with you everywhere you go the tools that you need to figure that out, and it's called your body. You feed your body one way and see how it does, and feed it a different way and see if it does any better. Yeah. And so having said that, I really, in our practice here, we do not do a lot of testing for food sensitivity. It's kind of gotten to the point where I tell people, look, we're going to save you hundreds of dollars here. We're just going to make some simple changes in your diet and see how you do. And you can take the hundreds of dollars that we could have spent on food sensitivity testing, which isn't really very good anyhow, and put that in some kind of a vacation fund. Use the money to go to Hawaii. It'd be a lot more for your health than the paper would. And that's a long and complex discussion right there. But the point is that none of the testing for food sensitivities is very good.
Why is that?
Well, because it isn't – in testing, you're looking at two things, the sensitivity of the test and the specificity. The sensitivity is the test able to determine that you're actually sensitive to a food? And the specificity is if it says you're sensitive to a food, are you really, or is it just a false positive? And so, there are a number of reasons for this, not the least of which is that a lot of times people know the foods. They naturally know and stay away from foods that upset them. And if you're not challenging yourself with a certain food all the time, the reaction that your body would have, which would be, looking for antibodies, that reaction is what you'd be measuring for in a lab test. If you're not eating that food, you may not have any reaction that can be measured on a lab test. And the other is that a lot of the lab testing, medicine goes kind of crazy when it comes to this particular kind of lab testing. They look for skin testing, which doesn't even begin to test what might be a systemic reaction. Skin testing is measuring for immunoglobulin E, whereas your body is responding with immunoglobulin G.
Well, it seems that some of those tests, and we've talked about this in one of our posts, is there's almost a gradation of the kind of testing, and it seems that those kind of tests are really looking for acute reaction, something that is going to kill you. Your throat closes up because you have honey or you get stung by a bee or, whatever those things are.
Yeah, but that testing, it misses even that.
Oh.
So just let me give you a common example, okay? There are people that have a reaction to penicillin that is so severe that if you were to give them penicillin, they would have such a bad reaction they would die. Okay, but if you inject a little penicillin under the skin of a person who has a life-threatening penicillin allergy, they may not even respond. Because you're measuring for the wrong antibody. You're measuring for a response with what the skin has, which is immunoglobulin E, IgE, whereas the preformed response that's waiting to explode as soon as it sees some penicillin is immunoglobulin G, IgG.
So how would you ever know then if you were just, whoops, it's already too late?
Well, you take a careful history before you give antibiotics. You ask if you ever had a reaction to penicillin or penicillin-like drugs, because it's usually never the first time they're exposed that they have the life-threatening reaction. The first time they're exposed, it's like loading the gun. The second time they're exposed, it's when the trigger gets pulled.
Okay.
So, but the point is that the testing isn't very good. The testing of, withdrawing a food, see how you do. Add it back in if you're not convinced that it made a difference and see how you do. So, that's what we do in the healthy eating workshop. We basically eat a fairly simple diet for 6 weeks and that doesn't contain the foods most commonly known to cause sensitivity. It doesn't include grains and cow dairy and legumes and, like soy and things like that. And then slowly you add them back in and you see, do I notice a change when I remove them? Do I notice a change when I add it back in? And it sounds simple, and it is, but it's very effective. And, I've had people with debilitating autoimmune disorders. If you have an immune system that's twitchy and responding to things in such an exaggerated way that it's boiling over and now you're developing an immune response against your own tissues, part of what's tweaked your immune system might be the foods you're eating. So I don't want to say that the foods you're eating have caused your lupus or caused your rheumatoid arthritis or caused your scleroderma or your psoriasis or all the different kinds of your Hashimoto's thyroiditis or your whatever.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All of that doesn't sound very
no,
good.
none of those things are good. They're really bad diseases. But if
I don't know who Hashimoto is. But,
he was a nice man.
Okay.
He was a doctor. Yeah, he was a good guy, one of us. Okay. But anyhow, he. But if you clean up your diet, if you remove that factor that might be stirring it up, and go a long way to toning down those very serious diseases. Yeah. So it's not that food causes all of this, but food is, you have total control.
It's a contributor.
Well, yeah, and you have total control over what you put in your mouth.
Right.
You can change tonight what you decide to eat.
But there's the rub right there.
What is the rub? Tell me.
Well, can I make that? I can make that choice, but will I make that choice? But I love my pretzels. For me, that was like a hard object or hard food because I like them and I'm used to them and they're comfort food and it means, and they're inexpensive and.
Well, I'm going to say something here that isn't really very popular.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm not saying this about you. I'm just saying this in general.
It's okay if you want to say it about me.
Okay. Well, you were the one who brought it up, so I'll say it about you. But what do you call it when people do something knowing that there's going to be a negative consequence, and even knowing ahead of time that there's going to be a negative consequence, they do it anyway because they can't not do it. You call that addiction.
Yep.
And so it's true. These things with food uncover what's really a very common addictive nature in many human beings. I'm not trying to use that as a label, a derogatory label, or I'm not trying to give you a diagnosis or anything, but I'm just saying that, we're all wrestling with our addictions.
Well, I having spent a lot of years working in hospitals and especially with people at end of life or who are at least facing serious illness. And there was often times where people would come in, they have some serious things going on. There was an option if they wanted to change, because they maybe didn't have the best diet and they would acknowledge, I don't eat as well as I could or et cetera, or I know that I'm a little overweight because I'm not minding my diet. I'm diabetic, or I'm eating foods that are aggravating some other issues, and I just I don't want to change, and it's that edge that people push against.
Yeah. Well, I'm realizing it. We need to do some podcasts about how to deal with addiction, and I don't mean serious addiction to drugs or alcohol, although it becomes kind of the same issue. But how do we deal with that just basic human weakness that we do things that we know aren't good for us, knowing that they're not going to be good for us, and then we experience them not being good for us, and we continue to do them. Boy, and if you're out there listening to this and you have any things that you can share, we would love that because it's
this is complex. I think it's always important to be clear that anything that we talk about isn't, just get rid of this and it's easy. And sometimes it is, but these are complex issues. This is why the health of, just this country is challenged a lot of the time because we don't necessarily pay attention to the foods we eat. We don't necessarily look at labels. I mean, some people do, but I think oftentimes we get busy. I know this works. It feeds me. Yeah, okay, I maybe feel a little bit off, but it's not horrible, and I don't have the time to do anything else. Or this is the most convenient option, and I make that choice, even though I know maybe it's not the best one. But then you keep doing that, and
I think that's why
the problem.
The healthy eating workshop, when we do it, is always so popular because there's a way that the structure of that it's kind of a class, but the structure of just being in a group with other people and having some support and shared experience allows people to do something that they wouldn't do on their own.
Yeah.
And come in and that's one of the responses here is that, and that also gets into a bigger thing. We go through life thinking it's all up to us, that we don't have any support, that it's all about doing everything on our own, being Mr. or Mrs. Do-It-All. And, that's never the way human beings lived. I mean, we're getting really far afield here from food sensitivities, but just to bring it all back home, we have a nice post on food sensitivities, and we're going to be putting up also some food lists based on one of the ways we also deal with this is by foods related to blood type. So we're going to be putting up some lists of what are the foods for your blood type and things like that. Just some simple ways to kind of get started playing with this, because it's really all about playing with what you eat, seeing how you respond, and playing around some more. That's how you end up, with what my goal is, which my goal for all of you is that you have and figure out a diet for the rest of your life that's going to serve you and lead to long health, long life. And you're not going to figure that out in a few weeks.
No.
Okay.
Sounds like we have our task ahead of us.
Yes,
There's more
we do.
things to
Yes,
do.
we do.
More things to post, more things for you to check out. Oh, and you see even the car behind us in the distance is revving up for all of our exciting things that we're going to have on our website and our YouTube channel.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey.
As always, if you have a thought or a comment or there's a subject you'd really like us to cover, let us know. Leave a comment. Make sure to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and always check out our website. We try to place things on all those spots, but again, we're here to be of service to you, so make sure that you let us know.
So I'm Dr. Damon Miller, your organic MD, and I thank you.
And this is Carlisle Coash. Have a great day, and to your health.